Hello, this is Martha McCoy, and normally we're out cooking around Chanute, but today we're going to be baking. And today I'd like to introduce you to Robin Coates. And we are going to be doing a baking project here in her kitchen. And Robin, what are we going to be making today?
Well, I call this the All-American Easy Apple Pie. And to me, this is as traditional as baseball, apple pie, and 4th of July. There's nothing fancy about it, but it is delicious.
Wonderful.
And now there's a little story behind this pie. When I first moved to Chanute as a teacher, somebody had given me a bag full of apples from their orchard, and I wanted to make an apple pie, and so I was looking for a good recipe. And one of my friends gave me the recipe. She was a teacher, Jill, at the high school, and she came in one day during lunch. A group of us would have lunch together, and she came in and she said, "I've got the easiest apple pie recipe." So I grab a piece of paper and a pen, and I said, "Okay, give me the recipe." And she said, "Put the paper away, put the pen away. It is that easy."
Oh my.
So here is the recipe, and it really is that easy. She said, you're going to start off, and you can, if you want to make a homemade pie crust, you can, but because this is easy, you may want to go buy a pie crust that's pre-made from the grocery store. You put your pie crust in, and then you're just going to layer it with apples, cinnamon, a little bit of flour for thickening, and some pats of butter. And then you're going to just keep layering it with those ingredients. And she said, if you think you've added too much butter, add more. So I followed her instructions.
No calories in this one. No.
This is not a health-friendly, health-conscious recipe, but this is something I make maybe twice a year, maybe in the summertime, and then in the fall when apples, it's apple picking time. It's a great recipe, and so I think it's a really good recipe. Now, one of the things she told me, she said, when you put your apples in there, when you pile your apples on, she said, make sure you pile them high because they're going to cook down. And so I followed the instructions to a T, and I put this apple in the oven, and I did not put it on a cookie sheet that was lined. I didn't put it on any cookie sheet. And while it was baking, it had butter just bubbling and oozing out. My oven was a mess.
Had to clean the oven.
It was a mess. But I went the next day, told my students this story, and years later I would have students come to me and say, "Miss Hofer, please tell us your apple pie story." So with that, we can go ahead and make this recipe. But this is now my apple pie recipe, and it's turned out a hit every single time.
Right.
So what I've done is I have purchased the pre-made, and if you want to make a homemade, I've got a couple recipes that I like, pie crust, but I'm doing it the easy way today. And I like to take the pie crust out of the refrigerator with 15-20 minutes before I bake it, just so it's easier to work with. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to put this pie crust in the pie pan.
This is a beautiful pie pan.
Thank you. This is not going to be greased. You don't want to grease your pie pan.
Don't grease it. Okay.
You probably could, but I never do.
With the butter, you're probably not going to need to.
Yes, you probably don't need to. And this is so easy. My kids usually like to help me bake, so have your kids help with this. Now, the hardest part about this pie is having to peel all the apples. Now, I have seen apple pie recipes that call for 6 apples. This is 13 apples.
Okay.
And so if you can enlist some help from family or friends to help you peel the apples, that's going to be the part that's going to take the longest, peeling your apples. I like using Granny Smith apples, but you can use whatever kind of apple you prefer.
So you normally use Granny Smith?
Granny Smith, yes, yes. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and add my apples. Whoops. And about a third of them. Now, I know there's some people who, when they hear this recipe, they're going to say, just give me some exact ingredients. And so basically, the exact ingredients, if you're one of those people, basically, let's say a dozen apples, that's easy to remember,
yes,
versus 13. A dozen apples, let's say about a cup of sugar,
okay,
a stick of butter, and then, cinnamon to taste, and I'm going to say 6 tablespoons of flour.
Okay.
So there is an exact recipe, or exact ingredients. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and I'm just gonna sprinkle with sugar, And then we're gonna do cinnamon, and I put cinnamon in every single layer. My couple tablespoons of flour, and this is for thickening. It'll help thicken up the pie.
Right.
And then I'm just gonna take my butter and slice that up. You can do whole patch, just you can just slice it up like this, or sometimes I like to even take this and maybe even cut that in halves or fourths.
So have you ever melted the butter and then just poured a little bit and then poured a little bit? Have you ever done it that way?
I've never done it that way.
I just wondered if that would work too.
It probably would. So I'm just adding the butter, about a third of the butter. Now, if you want to add more butter, you can. If you think, oh my goodness, that's way too much butter, I'm going to add less, that's fine as well. You can just kind of experiment, but this is what has always worked for me. So there I've got my butter. Now I'm just going to repeat this.
Okay.
And I'm just going to add some more apples. Now, are you an apple pie fan?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Especially a la mode.
Oh, yes. Yes. Me too. Okay, so we're going to add some more sugar. Going to get the cinnamon. You want nice cinnamon flavor. Some people like nutmeg in pie, and if you want to do that, you can, but cinnamon is all I add to mine. Flour, and then we need some more butter. Okay, and so now we are ready for our third layer, and I usually do about 3 layers. You know, if you want to do more or less, that's fine, but that's an easy way to remember.
Do you ever freeze some of your apples? Have you ever tried freezing
I
apples?
haven't.
And I just wondered if that would work too.
I haven't.
Oh my, you're going to pile that all
Now,
the way
when
up.
I say I pile this very
it.
high.
Yes.
I am going to fit all of these apples. As you can see, there's still a lot of apples.
Right.
I'm going to fit all of these apples in here. And it's going to look ridiculous high. This could probably be called the mile high pie. Yes.
But it does cook down, so
It really does
you
cook
just
down.
keep it all there while you're waiting.
It is going to be, after you take it out of the oven, it's going to settle down a little bit. And then after it cools, it's going to settle down. But even then, it's probably a taller pie than your typical apple pie. But all right, so now if you think this is too much or too many apples, you could easily reduce the apples, the amount of apples.
I don't think
Okay, so we still have to add our ingredients here, and we're just gonna douse it here with sugar. And then when it gets this high, I like to cut the butter up and kind of try to strategically put it in little crevices, so hopefully that it's not bacon, oozing out of the pie. So
Right.
I'm gonna just go ahead and just kind of
Oh, in
take
vacant
these little
places. Okay.
yes, and I'm going to have you help me here, Martha, in
Sure.
a second. Let me cut it one more time, and we can just fill in the little gaps here with butter. There you go.
Okay.
Now
You wouldn't think there'd be any spaces, but there actually are some little
yes,
spaces.
there are. This, to me, apple pie just kind of says summer and fall.
Yes.
It's just kind of a classic dessert there. All right, we're gonna need a little bit of cinnamon to go on top, and I will also add a little bit more flour as well. Get it nicely.
So it's okay
Cover
to
here.
add some flour on top too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. We'll add a little bit of flour there. Okay. Now is the fun part. My kids really like doing this next part. We're gonna take our second pie crust here, and we're just going to go ahead and cover this up. This one's a little more challenging because you may have to stretch your pie crust.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just gonna cover this up like so, and I really like Now, I know there's some people who are perfectionists and they want, you know, it looking like a perfect pie crust. And if you're like one of those people, go for it. But I love the way this pie looks. When my kids help me, it looks just kind of like a rustic.
Yes.
We
Old
all
country
pitched in
type
totally.
pie,
So do whatever works for you. But what I do is I've got some water here, and just to kind of seal the two pie crusts together, I just take it with 2 fingers and kind of use it, and it'll kind of act like a little glue there to adhere the 2 pie crusts together, and hopefully not let any butter out that wants to ooze out during the baking process. And get those apples in there. And as you're stretching, you're probably going to be maybe tearing it a little bit. That's okay. That just adds to the character of the pie, I think.
Yes.
All right, so now that is definitely a tall pie, would you not say?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and you're going to want to vent it, and you know, do whatever works for you. Growing up, my mom always did leaves.
Oh.
Do you have a favorite?
No, I just would poke it. Sometimes I'd use a fork.
Oh, gotcha.
You know, kind of make little designs out of that.
I've seen people do X's on top,
Mm-hmm.
but we just do the.
Oh, that's neat.
We just do the leaves. I don't know where my mom picked that up, but she always did that. So
She
that's
probably just, you know,
got
figured
that
it
from,
out all by herself. Yeah. That's neat.
So,
I'm going to do that from now on.
all right.
I like the leaf pattern.
Now, one thing, if you make this from scratch, your pie crust, you're going to have more pie crust. Or you could buy more pie crust, but what's kind of fun to do is I've got some little cookie cutters.
Oh.
And it's kind of fun to use these and put them on top like leaves, you know, kind of in the fall, and acorns. Here's the
and
maple
then just
leaf.
put it on top.
You just put it on top, and you're probably going to want to use like we did with the water, just so it adheres to the, and it's just going to give it a little bit more of a 3-dimensional shape to the pie, and it just kind of adds a little character. Or this is a flower, hearts, whatever you want to do. Okay, now what we're going to do is I've got some milk here, and I'm just going to brush the top of the pie, the entire top of the pie with this milk, and then I'm going to add sugar to it. And you can also add cinnamon if you want to do that.
I've never done this before with the milk.
This
That's
is going to
neat.
give it kind of a little glossy look to it, and it's also going to get our sugar to stick nicely to it. So I'm just going to take the sugar and kind of pour it on top.
Oh, it does hold it there. That's
Yeah.
right.
Okay, so there is our apple pie, and it is now ready for the oven. And I am going to put it in an oven that I have preheated to 375. The thing about apple pie is it can be kind of deceiving, because if you put it in for, let's say you put it in 50 minutes, the crust might look a nice golden brown, and you take it out thinking it's finished, and it'll be kind of pasty on the bottom, which is not good at all. So I always cook my pies at least an hour, usually an hour and maybe 10 minutes. And what you may want to do is put tinfoil on the top, maybe for the first 30 to 45 minutes.
So it won't get brown too
So
quick.
it doesn't brown the top of the pie. So we'll cover that with tinfoil. And then we'll just go ahead and put that in the oven. Okay.
This,
Yes. That one. Okay, there we go. And now for the finished product. Here is
oh, look at
the
this.
apple pies here. And we'll get
Isn't that
our,
gorgeous?
we will get our, slicing the pie can be a challenge, but eating it is the best part.
Yes.
So nice and flaky crust, which is what you want. And then we'll get our ice cream. You said a la mode, which is awesome. Now, have you ever had cheddar cheese with apple pie?
No.
Have you ever heard of that? That is something I like to eat with my apple pie. I don't know where that came from, but I had heard of people doing that, and I tried that and thought it was really good. It's a totally different twist on apple pie.
Well, I've had cheese with apples.
Yeah.
You know, but I've never put it on apple pie.
Okay. And we've got plates for you here. Now, do you eat your apple pie and ice cream with a fork or a spoon?
Oh,
Do you have a
4.
preference? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And here's our plate. We're gonna go ahead and how about if you serve up the pie and I'm
Okay.
gonna grab some ice cream. Now my favorite kind of ice cream is vanilla bean. So
Oh,
we're
yes.
gonna,
That'd be good.
we are going to have it with some vanilla bean ice cream.
Oh, look at that.
You definitely get your biggest bang for your buck when it comes to apples
Yes,
with
you
this pie
do.
because this pie is not skimpy on apples, that's for sure.
Oh, goodness sakes.
All right.
Gorgeous.
There is a big scoop of ice cream for you there.
Thank you.
And we'll get a scoop of ice cream here. Whoops. There you go. And now it's time
We
to
should try this.
give it a try.
Mm-mm.
Get some of those apples in there.
Now we've got to get
And
the
some
whole,
pie
all
crust.
of it.
Yes, I know.
Very nice. And the texture and everything is just gorgeous. Well, I'm going to have to make this for the next reunion we have.
Oh, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it just says summer and fall.
It does. It does, and it's just wonderful. Well, Robin, we thank you so much for showing us how to do this. And we're just hoping maybe you'll show us another pie or some other baking feat someday.
I'd love to.
Good.
Love to.
And this is Martha McCoy with the Chanute Channel.